Hi, CC families. It's Leanne here with your week 4 recap. I wanted to get it to you as quickly as I could while it was still fresh in my brain. So, for week 4, let's flip over here. We started with geography. We had the Hittite Empire. It was nice only having 4 things this week because that's kind of tricky sometimes with young ones finding the places. So we found them and identified them first, and then I had surprised them with a little emoji sticker hidden inside their folding maps. And so they put their little emoji sticker on their fingertip, and then we showed their friends around the Hittite Empire. So we went to Hattusa, we just tapped it, Hattusa. And then Asia Minor, and they rubbed it across. And then the Arabian Desert, we were like, hot, 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 hot on the Arabian Desert, so they tapped that. And then Cyprus was, let's hang out on the island of Cyprus. So then from geography, we went to history, and we did the 7 wonders of the ancient world like we do in the timeline song. And then there were hand gestures to go along. There is a song on the CC app for that. And so I showed them the pictures from the timeline cards as we talked about what the hand gesture was to help us remember, and then the picture to kind of associate with that. And then we heard the song later. So it was Pyramids of Giza, the Hanging Gardens, that Hanging Gardens at Babylon, the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus. They made a big Z, the statue of Zeus at Olympia, the mausoleum at Halicarnassus. We did like the scales, Pharaoh's lighthouse at Alexandria, and then the Colossus of Rhodes. So one fist up and one hand on your hip, the Colossus of Rhodes. That was for history. For Latin, it was the same as last week, and we did the CC song and did the action dice along with it, and they had so much fun with that. We ended up using the action dice in science also. So we did emoji face, like one winking eye and the tongue stuck out, and tried to sing the song with that. And we did hop like a frog, and we did their personal favorite today, the volcano. So we'd squat down really low and quiet, and then we'd grow and grow and grow, and then at the end of each, like with singular first declensions, and we would just erupt, and then we'd get back down for the plurals. I, arm, east, I, see. So we'd grow, 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 and then explode at the end. So they had a lot of fun with that. And then we went on to science, which was what are some parts of a plant cell? And we did it to the tune of London Bridge's nucleus, cytoplasm, vacuole, mitochondria, cell membrane, cell wall, chloroplast, Golgi bodies. And we did that, and because not everyone got to use the action dice on the first declensions, noun endings, we finished out and added the action dice to the song. So that way everybody had a turn with the dice. What did we do? Stand on the leg, hop like a frog. Twirl is one. We didn't get to do that one today. Lots of volcano requests. Emoji face. That kind of thing. For English, we had more with the prepositions. So we taught the new ones, which is before. So you kind of put before and then bring it behind. And then below. Actually, we bring that hand below and then beneath, squat down, and then beside, both hands to one side. And so then we rewound and went back from weeks 2 and 3 and added week 4 about, above, across. Now I can't even remember my own things. We've done them 100 times. About, above, across, after, against, along, amid, among, around, at, atop, and then before, behind, below, beneath, beside. That was a lot of fun. They like to do that one and see how fast they can go. For math, we did the CC songs that go with the new songs that expand to 15, and we sang through those several times, and then I'd erase a couple of numbers and see if we could pause it on the song and if they could fill in what comes next. So we did that with math. And then lastly was, for new grammar, it was timeline. And we did early Native Americans. We made the F and brought it around behind. Israel divides into 2 kingdoms, Homer and Hesiod, the H. Rome founded by Romulus and Remus. Israel falls to Assyria. Assyria falls to Babylon. And then we made the P for philosopher, Lao Tzu, Confucius, and then we put our hands down below our tummy for Buddha. That's a little different than I did it last year. I think last year it was just Lhasa, Confucius, and Buddha. But I think I heard that was the official, if there is an official. So I'm going with that, Buddha, hands under your tummy. For art, today we had abstract art. So we reviewed some examples of abstract art and discussed them. And then we had some variety. One that was a lot of energy and movement and color. One that had a lot of color in a traditional form. It was a tree, but it looked like stained glass. And we talked about that one with the form, but different colors to make up the composition. We talked about, and we showed one that was very rigid and structured. And so how they were all examples of abstract art. We really just kind of drove in the vocabulary. We used attending skills and naming skills by talking about oils and structure and composition, things like that. And then they got a chance to use the form of Africa, which they all recognized right away. Yay! So they recognized Africa, and we just had a black outline of Africa, and they were able to. We just listened to some music, and they colored with colored pencils, and I told them to just have fun with abstract art. So that should be a fun one to incorporate this week too at home. That one has a variety of applications. We also talked about what do you think the artist's mood was? What do you think they were feeling? Were they trying to convey something? What were they experimenting with? What do you recognize? What does it make you feel like? So it was fun to just kind of hear their opinions on these things. Now we did the week 5 for science because of the weather for week 3 and today. And so oily feathers, we actually did tangled first. Tangled was the one where we put the rubber band behind your hand with these just 2 fingers. We recapped about pollution and some of the grammar keywords that they learned last week in pollution. And then we bound their fingers and talked about how animals, see life and the impacts that they may have. And it was kind of fun watching them try to get out of the rubber band. I think we had one successful. And I didn't get to watch him, so I'm not sure how he did it. But so we talked about that, and then we went into oily feathers. And we had lots of hypothesi about whether birds had oily feathers or not. And we used some keywords like density and hypothesizing whether the water was more dense or less dense than the oil. And they thought the oil was going to float or sink, and why. And really kind of just asked a lot of questions. Then we talked about feathers, and I told them at first they didn't think that birds had oily feathers, but we talked about how it could waterproof them, and how, imagine getting into a swimming pool wearing your winter coat and winter boots and scarves and gloves and hats, and all of that water would just seep right through, and you would go under, and it would be hard. You would sink with all of that weight. But if we were, like the animals, we talked about ducks and their water coating, or the oil that helps keep them waterproof, and it also helps keep them buoyant because the oil is less dense than the water, so that helps them float. And then we had they observed, attended to the oil floating on top, and then we added the dish soap and gently stirred that, and then they watched as some of the oil, pretty much it broke up into little bubbles and dispersed. And we had lots of questions about why that happened and what implication that had. And then kind of to illustrate the difference between the way it works is, oil, let's just say that there's an oil molecule and then the water molecule, and they repel against each other. And we talked about what that looked like. And so I had one student stand with his arms out wide, and he was a water molecule, and another one that was oil, and they leaned away from each other. They were repelling, and then a soap would come in and grab one of each of their hands and bring them closer together. And so everybody got to take a turn. I want to be soap. I want to be the detergent. And I want to be oil. I want to be water. And so we had them kind of demonstrate how that worked. And so when the soap brought those 2 things together, it made the oil and the water mix, and it changed the buoyancy, the density, and what effect that would have on birds and their oily feathers. So some good conversation, and I'm sure y'all can think of all kinds of ways to apply that. We talked about what oil was and why it was helpful when we were washing dishes, and so maybe they could watch an oily pan this week and squirt some Dawn on there and see what happens, or oily hands and then put some detergent and see what happens. So, anyways, I think that was it. Presentation was great. Kids, we talked about confidence, and I'll go ahead and tell y'all that next week we'll focus on articulation. So, speaking clearly and articulating our words. So, our skill focus for presentation next week is articulation. I think this is it. Hope you have a great day. As always, let me know if you have any questions. Happy to help.